Greetings and welcome to the show Black Fridays with Freddie Taylor, the show where we are focused on raising our children to be proud and black. Before we get started, do me a favor. If you're catching this on replay, most of you guys are going to catch this on replay. Type replay in the comments. We like to see where we're engaging and our people that are engaging with us. And then also, if you're catching this live or even if you're watching on replay, do me a favor and let us know where you're watching from. Put your name and location in the comments. We'd love to catch up with you and see where you're watching us from. But again, welcome to the show Black Friday. My name is Freddie Taylor. I am your host. I am the owner and founder of Urban Intellectuals, where we make it fun and easy to learn Black history. We do this with a series of historical education products designed to write the Black community back into the pages of world history and back into the hearts and the minds of our community. We do that with products like our world famous Black History flashcards that you see here behind me, the Sankofa Club, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and then shows like Black Fridays with Freddie Taylor, where we're focused on raising our children to be proud and black. I'm very excited and honored to be here with you today. I'm excited to get into Black Fridays, right? So over the next 7 weeks, 8 weeks if you include last week, so make sure you go back and catch our special on Marcus Garvey if you missed week 1, episode 1, Up You Mighty Nation, right? But during this 8 weeks of Black Fridays, we are going to be focused on bringing you Black history and empowerment to inspire you and your children to go out and be the change in the world that we want to see, right? We believe in the butterfly effect here at Urban Intellectuals. We believe that if we touch our children and raise their level of self-confidence and their understanding of their place on the world via their history and their culture, that it will rapidly improve their performance in school. It will rapidly improve their relationship and their love of education, which is really what we want. And then in addition to making them better professionals, better family men and women, better they're more useful to the community. I think that ending is really where we want to take it. But when they do that, that's going to literally help us change the world. So we're looking forward to working with you in this endeavor. Let me break down how Black Fridays is going to work, right? It's a little bit different of a show. We have 3 different segments of Black Fridays, right? The first segment, we're going to have a discussion. That's where I get an opportunity to launch into some history and culture and talk a little bit from a historical perspective about a famous person and tying in a good number 2 reason, right? Reason why we're learning about this individual or this movement, because I think that it makes a specific point that's poignant and powerful to the time. But in addition, it's even more important and powerful on why we pass these stories along to our children. So I want to give you the reason on why your young people needs to learn about the individuals that we're talking about. And then finally, we're going to have a task section that's similar to homework. We'll just call it activities, different ways to engage with that elixir, right? The engagement with our young people and to get them to get these ideas and these lessons to resonate with them in a different way. So give you some tasks and some very light and easy things that you can do to reinforce this point with your young people and yourself. So there's going to be discussion, reasons, and tasks, right? But before you even start, I want you to go ahead and let me get non-negotiable in the comments, right? Non-negotiable, because what we're talking about is non-negotiable. You're going to have to buckle up, put on your parental belt, and let's take control, get in the driver's seat and take control of our children's future. In fact, it doesn't take a lot of time. It only takes 5 minutes a day to keep the miseducation away. 5 short minutes a day to keep the miseducation away. But it has to be intentional minutes. And that's kind of what we want to focus on and guide you towards here on not only the Black Friday show, but throughout the Sankofa Club and obviously in the Urban Intellectual universe. Now, I wanted to do a quick note. I want you to sign up for our Black Fridays, sankofaclub.com/Black Fridays. Go ahead and join the show. Show your support for the things that we're doing here. But in addition, we're going to give you some freebies and some extras that allow you to enhance the task section of our discussion here today. So go ahead and sign up. It's absolutely free. You can get some updates on when the show is coming out, topics, and all types of freebies and extras that we like to do here at Urban Intellectuals. But last point of order before we get out of here, let me point to our sponsors and thank the Sankofa Club for sponsoring the show here on Black Fridays. The Sankofa Club empowers you to stop the miseducation of your children. The Sankofa Club empowers you to stop the miseducation of your children. Membership gives you instant access to activities, workshops, and Black history classes. to help your children unlearn the miseducation in the system and unleash their full self-confidence by filling in the gaps of our glorious history. So go ahead and check us out at sandcopaclub.com. We got a very special offer for you there as well. Looking forward to joining you joining us in the club. All right, Freddie, let's go, Freddie. Let's get down with the get downs, because you told me we're coming to talk about 1 out of 17, right? And I'll explain that in just a second. But we're talking about none other than Mary McLeod Bethune, right? 1 of 17. Interesting. I want to open up with a quote from her. I had to put my reading glasses on here, right? Okay, so I plunged into the job of creating something from nothing. Though I hadn't a penny left, I considered cash money the smallest part of my resources. I had faith in a living God, faith in myself, and a desire to serve. I got goosebumps there because she had a desire to serve. I want to come back to that point a little bit later, but she had a desire to serve. I love that. I love that. Okay, so why I'm talking about none other than Mary McLeod Bethune. So let me drop her up on the chart here. And let's dig a little bit into her story. I want to give you a little bit of background, right? So she was born on July 10th, 1875. July 10th, 1875 in Maysville, South Carolina, right? Maysville, South Carolina in 1875. Now think about the time period. Think about the era. Think about her parents, right? Samuel and Patsy McLeod. She was born to Samuel and Patsy McLeod in 1875. She was one of 17 children, right? 17 children born to parents who were formerly enslaved, right? So think about that. And then she grew up basically on the plantation that our people were enslaved on, right? Because you think about 12 years before her birth in 1875 was the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed the enslaved people here in the Americas. 2 years later, we have Juneteenth, where people in Texas were figuring out that they were freed 2 years after the American War, right? And the Freedom Emancipation Proclamation. But she is growing. She's birthed in that time period, right? I just think about the resiliency of our people to have 17 children, keep them together and their wife in that time period, and somewhat have a sane mindset is relatively incredible to us, right? It's incomprehensible, which is why I despise this conversation around these keyboard activists and these tough guys of the modern era talking about we're not our ancestors. You're right, you're not our ancestors, because our ancestors had a grit and a determination and a zeal for life that we'll never understand, because we've never had to face some of the atrocities that they had to live through and watch their loved ones go up through. So stop this disrespectful conversation about our ancestors, right? I can't stand that. But I want to talk a little bit about her, right? Because she lived as a sharecropper. She grew up on a sharecropper's farm, right? Which was really popular coming out of emancipation, right? Our people were trying to survive. They didn't know what to do, so they ended up staying on the farms that enslaved them, and they got an opportunity to eat and earn some wages, right, and get a little bit of opportunity. But that's really an interesting environment to grow up in, right? So one day, I think she's about 10 years old or so, Mary goes up to the big house with her mom for the very first time. There was a big discussion on who's going to go and why, and Mary's mom thought that she was a little bit too young to go up there, but the father insisted, saying that, hey man, she's gonna have to get the reality of our existence at some point, right? Which is a conversation that we have to have today about our children. When do I introduce to our children, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting and poignant. But on the trip up to the big house, right, Mary stops in the yard and plays with the other plantation children, right? The children who own the plantation, the little white kids, okay? Her mom goes inside, does her thing, and Mary's out playing with the kids, but there's a book laying around and it draws Mary. She wanders over to the book and she picks it up and she's looking at it. And this white guy, a little white boy, runs up to her and says, put that down. Books aren't for you. They don't tell what words to use, but you got to think that it wasn't something kind. But books aren't for y'all. Books are for white people, right? She puts the book down. They end up going back to their home. But that stuck with Mary for so long. It was beating inside of her, and she it created a burning desire to not only learn how to read, but to become educated. Because she started to figure that that must be the difference between black people and white people. It must be education. It's got to be something in these books. We need to figure out what's in those books, right? So you find out, studying this time period, that in the time after emancipation, during the Reconstruction age, the need for the enslaved people to educate themselves and learn and to read ran deep in them, because they were withheld from it for so long. So they really had like a strong passion for education and learning. I know that's still in our community today, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And we got to continue that heartbeat, right? That passion and that desire to create more. I want to get into that a little bit too, right? But like I said, during the Reconstruction period, the Negro education was pretty much non-existent. And it came down pretty much to some philanthropists from the North, like that would come down and set up schooling houses to try to start educating some of the young, right? But one local guy comes down and builds a schoolhouse and is trying to get some of the local kids to join in a Maysville area, right? So they come up on Mary's parents' sharecropping situation on their home and ask, hey, you got 17 children. Can we get a few of them to come on down to the school? And their dad is like, nah, the kids got to work the farm. This is why we have a lot of children, or they had a lot of children at the time to work the farm, right? And this is where the idea of the summer and all that comes from, right? We're going to go into that another time. But the dad is like, man, I got to work the farm, this and that. So anyway, the guy asked for one. What about one child? And now he's got to go through the 17 children and try to figure out who is the best selection to get an opportunity to go get this education, right? So Mary was selected because they knew that would Mary go out and learn something, she would come back and teach all of her brothers and sisters. And that's exactly what Mary did. It's a beautiful thought to think about this young woman, 10, 11, 12 years old, 13, somewhere in there. I didn't pay attention to the exact detail, right? I want you to go back and get that. But she walked 5 miles to school each day. Each and every day, she walked 5 miles to go get this education. And at one point, the teacher was like, man, why do you study so hard? She said, I study so hard because when I get home, I got to teach my 16 sisters and brothers how all of this works, right? So she took her job very seriously, and her dad was absolutely right about how serious she was about doing just that. But Mary talks about one of her proudest moments is teaching her parents how to read. And teaching her parents how to read the very Bible that got them through, read the very Bible verses that got them through some of the most horrific times that the world has ever seen. American slavery, American chattel slavery specifically, right? So Mary grew up deeply religious her entire life. She's deeply religious and faithful and wanted to be a seminary as well, and went to study to do just that. She talked about that moment of teaching her parents the verses, how to read the verses that they had been reciting their entire lives, was just something that was really special and magical to her. So hats off to her for that. She's back on the farm now, right? So she goes through the school and she matriculates through the school. There wasn't really a graduation. There was just nothing else for her to learn. So she ends up back on the farm and she's working hard doing the work, right? And one day, one of the mules died, right? The mule dies and the plow is stopped. And all the kids are standing around looking at the mule. And the dad walks up, who's a very practical man, right? It's like, what are you looking at the mule for? He's dead. It's time to hitch up your human bodies to this plow and let's get this field done. The mule is dead. The field's got to get plowed. Let's go. So that's just like a little bit of an insight into the world that she grew up in, and her parents and her mom and dad's disposition on life, right? Like, there's no nonsense. There's no mourning. There's no time for that. We got to get to work. We got work to do. I have that vision going through my head about plowing the fields. Well, okay, a little bit of time passed, a couple of years later. The guy who's running the school comes up and says, hey, there's a scholarship for Mary to go to college. There's a scholarship for Mary. And, and the dad is like, what? Mary go to college? There's no need for that. We don't need that in our lives. We got work right here to do on the farm. And the question, basically, I believe the wife, Patsy, asked, Samuel, does the faith of the farm really lie on the back of one little girl? Right? And Samuel is like, nah, I guess you're right, and gives Mary the opportunity to go off and be educated in school. So she ends up going to get a degree from Scotia Seminary for Girls in 1893. Scotia Seminary for Girls in 1893. Falls in love with education, but when she's leaving, right, before she goes, and oh man, this was really interesting. So she's going off to college, right, and she's going on the local train. The whole town comes out and is cheering Mary on and waving her off to go, goodbye. It's like a really, you just think about the whole community coming together, being so excited and proud that somebody's going to make it and get an opportunity to go educate themselves, right? But her dad told her before she goes, he said, Mary, I know you want to start a school. I know you want to educate your people, but don't worry about educating all your people. Just find out where the people need help and help them there, right? So Mary's off on the train to go get educated. This in her mind, she's going to find out where the people need her and she's going to build her school right there, right? So Mary ends up going to school. She marries a teacher. They move to Daytona, Florida, right? And they're there for 1903, 1904. And Mary wants to open up her school. She goes out, and Mary is a go-getter. She's a quiet, soft-spoken woman, but speaks with power and fury, right? Power and passion, I should say. And she's unrelenting. She doesn't stop for anything or anyone. Like she said, she started off to build something from nothing. You remember that quote? She started off to build something from nothing, right? And that's exactly what she did. In Daytona, she ends up negotiating a plot of land. She puts down $1.50, right? It's 1904, $1.50 on this land, and she has a lien on the land. The guy drives her out to seize the land, and it is a trash heap. It's nothing but trash built up. And Mary's like, what is this? Like, I can't do anything with this. He said, Mary, I assure you there's fertile ground under that land. So with that, Mary put out the call for some girls to come to her school. Her school was called Daytona Normal Industrial School for Training Negro Girls. Daytona Normal and Industrial School for Training Negro Girls. Think about the vein of Booker T. Washington. Let's practical education, right? And Carter G talks about whether you go practical or classical education, you need an education that's grounded in service of your people, right? And this was what Mary was all about, and Booker T was all about, her service of her people, right? But some of the girls show up and they see all the trash, like, Mary, this is, Miss McLeod, this is a trash heap. Bethune, excuse me, Miss Bethune. And Mary says, yeah, but this is the work at hand. They get the shovels, they clear it, and they actually build that first building that eventually became Bethune-Cookman in 1923 when they merged with the male school, the Cookman Institute for Boys in 1923 to form Bethune-Cookman. But when they cleared that land out and built that first building, just imagine the pride that they had to have, right? Now, once the building is up and everything is going on, Mary has been relentless about fundraising, trying to get money and find additional funders to make sure that they can not only build a school, but they can pay off their debt, right? She's riding her bicycle around town. This is how she fundraised all around Daytona. And everybody knew that you see that bicycle, one, you better watch out because they say she wasn't very good at riding it, right? But she was relentless. She didn't let anything stop her, right? Not being an expert bike rider. Well, one day she bumps into someone on the bike, like crashes. I don't know if they walked out in front, whatever may have happened. But it turns out to be one of the donors that she had been searching forever. And the joke is that the guy says, let me give you this money so you can get back into school and get off this bicycle from endangering the community, right? But anyway, she got her money, paid off the debt, and now the school is able to start thriving and flourishing. I just think that story of her relentlessness is just one that we need to share, right? I love it so much. So she's bicycle fundraiser, right? I want to skip a little bit to the task, right? Just real quick to give you a couple of task items. I want you to continue that story, right? So Mary McLeod Bethune has built Bethune-Cookman College. They merged with the boys' school. They made the college. What happened in Mary's life after that? How did she become a advisor to the president? How did she get on this so-called Black Council? How did she get there? And then what were some of her other major life achievements, right? We know she was fierce in the civil rights battle and fighting for education and the growth of their children. How did she get there? Like, this is some great conversation if you have older children, to try to let them go do some research and then talk about the life and times of Mary McLeod Bethune. But I want to get into the reasons, right? because we talked about last week Marcus Garvey, right? And the reasons that Marcus Garvey really had that drive and that insight to go and help raise this mighty nation, right? Because he traveled the world and he's seen squalor conditions and the black African people on the bottom everywhere he went, all throughout the islands, all throughout Central America, South America, all throughout Europe, everywhere he went. He saw us on the bottom and was dismayed and wanted to do something about it. Mary didn't have the opportunity to travel the world, but she grew up with parents that grew up on the plantation. She grew up on the plantation, right? And she could see how desolate her people were, right? They talked about when Garvey got to the United States, right? And he's seen that it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, that his people were struggling at the bottom rungs, just like everywhere else he had seen. But Mary grew up with that. But she had that deep-seated understanding that she needs to serve her people. I think it's rooted in going to school and walking 5 miles each and every day to get to school. And we complain if the AC is out, right? We complain if we got to walk 2 blocks. This young child was walking 5 miles a day to go get an education in a society where she could have been lynched and hung and raped and something worse, re-enslaved for all we know what was going on in the South at that time, right? Stop complaining about your situation. It ain't that bad. Work harder, dig in. Let's go. But I love her because of that grit, that determination, that service to the community. Wanting to be a service to the community is really important, and it's something that we need to share and keep alive to our young people, because we don't need people that are educationally intelligent, but service, they not so service oriented, right? Like those people are just getting their education for themselves. We need the people that gather the education and that's willing to come back to the community, dig in with both hands and help and assist and lift those around you, instead of just, getting rich and getting your own and everything and acting like everybody else is out here solo. We need people that are going to be willing to serve the community, right? What did Mary talk about at the end of her quote? She said, "That's not it." I plunged into the job of creating something from nothing. Though I hadn't a penny left, I considered cash money as the smallest part of my resources. I had faith in the living God, faith in myself, and a desire to serve. A desire to serve. Such a powerful quote, such a powerful woman. There we go. Power to serve, right? These are the educated people that we need to get back to producing. Not that those that are individualistically thinking, but they're community oriented and they have that desire to serve, right? And then also I needed you to talk about this individual, because instead of referring to the pyramids, again, like we talked about Marcus Garvey, instead of referring to the pyramids of the old, she was building pyramids today and for the future, to allow them to shine, right? Because we talked about, her dad said, find a place where the people are in need and serve them and build a school for them. And that's exactly what she did there in Daytona. And she built an institution. She built a pyramid for us to marvel at, to see, to be educated by, and to be inspired, right? This is why we need to pass on the story of Mary McLeod Bethune. Yeah, okay, it's housed thousands of people, right? Yeah. So I love it. She found a place to do her job and she did it, right? So this is the reasons why we need to pass along Mary McLeod Bethune to the next generation. But really, I want you to go ahead and spend some time with your children, especially your teens, and finish out her story, right? That's what we talked about. What else did she have going on? What else did she achieve? How did she become an advisor to the president? Which president was it? That's a good question. And what are your favorite Mary McLeod Bethune quotes, right? Let's get some of those answers over the course of the next couple of days as you're working with your young people and you're working with yourself. But to continue to build and grow, I love the fact that we are serious about taking control of our young people's education and desiring for them to see more, right? And to do more. We need to continue to inspire our young people to rise up beyond these particular circumstances that they see in front of them and to get things done in spite of them, right? With a desire to serve the community. I think that our community is worth it. I think our young people are capable, and it's just going to take a little bit of blood, sweat. I got the sweat and tears on our part to stay in there, man, to continue to build and grow our young people, but by sharing wonderful stories like Mary McLeod Bethune with them and doing that on a consistent basis. Doing that on a consistent basis, and I think that it could feed the psyche and to reframe the brains of our children, because as we put them in that seat of trouble, as Carter G. Woodson talks about, we're going to talk about that another time. But as we reframe the brain, we can start producing more and more people that are of service to the community, that are of service to the mighty nation, right? That we're going to raise again. So I'm looking forward to your responses to that and seeing some of your homework, the types of things that you're going. Make sure you tag us, tag at Urban Intellectuals in any of your social media posts, and use the hashtag Urban Intellectuals as well. Looking forward to your feedback and your engagement. If you're inside of one of our groups, we're looking forward to you getting down inside of there as well. But check it out, good people. If you really want to take this learning to the next level, if you really want to start to engage your children and our young community and our people with some programming that feeds their spirit, right? That feeds their spirit, that really re-engages their love for education. That's what we all want as parents, right? Do you remember when your child used to be so excited to go to school? When your child was so excited to wake up and learn? When they learned something new, they ran home and showed it to you, right? You're ready to get back to those moments when your children are falling in love with education again. I want you to come on and get down with us and join us inside of the Sankofa Club. Remember, I told you that the Sankofa Club empowers you to stop the miseducation of your children. Membership, again, gives you instant access. When you sign up with the Sankofa Club, you're going to get instant access to our worksheets, our worksheets, our activities, and our classes, challenges, a whole ecosystem of things, and access to our wonderful parent community that are constantly sharing feedback and insight about what we are doing and doing together, right? But I'm very excited to announce that we just launched our Black History classes. All members inside of the Sankofa Club gains free access to all of our classes, but each week, 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we have contracted teachers to line up and share various lessons inside of the Sankofa Club to bring it even further to life. So you can sit down on Monday, go through your assignments, go through the classes. Classes range anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes as it stands currently. And this particular segment focuses on three-year-olds to 12-year-olds. That's our focus right now. We're expanding to teenagers soon. We're not just there just yet, but we started with our younger people, our elementary level children at the moment. And the classes are from Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, but they are also logged and saved inside of the Sankofa Club. So if you join at sankofaclub.com, you're going to gain access to our classes 5 days a week. You're going to gain access to all of our materials on worksheets and activities as well. But these are theme oriented. So each month there's a theme. And around that theme, there are 4 different sets of lessons, 1 per week. And the classes are set on each lesson per week. So for example, the first month is great minds. So we're talking about geniuses. We're talking about the Dogons. We're talking about Imhotep. We're talking about Maurice Ashley. We're talking about Mary Van Britten Brown. But each week in the month, we are taking on one of those particular focuses. So this week is finishing up, but that is the Imhotep week. So Monday through this particular Friday, our teachers was on teaching all about Imhotep, and our children have been eating it up. Take advantage of it today. Check us out, sankofaclub.com, to learn more. I'm your host, Freddie Taylor, the CEO and founder of Urban Intellectuals, where we make it fun and easy to learn Black history. It's been my honor and my privilege to serve you today and talking about Black Fridays as we went over the history of Mary McLeod Bethune and her impact on not only those individuals that she served, but the lessons that we all get to marvel at from the pyramid that she built, known as Bethune-Cookman College. Until next time, good people, you know what it is. Love, peace, and Black power.